If you want to learn how to make worm chow, then this is the video for you. Let's get straight into it. Now, this is a little bit different to some of the other recipes that I've done in the past, but you know, we live and learn and adapt and improve things. I have oats mixed in with some cornmeal. So that's the yellow, the cornmeal. They absolutely love it. Lots of carbs, sugary goodness for them. And ratios here are not terribly important. I wouldn't worry about it too much. If you've got more oats available, then use more oats. Oats is not expensive. Cornmeal, on the other hand, especially here in the UK, is not as cheap, which is weird. In Africa, cornmeal is, well, it's a staple, and it's very, very cheap. We call it milli meal. So I'd say about 2.5 kilograms of each. I'm adding in a little bit of calcium carbonate, not a lot. Most of the time you don't actually need this, and I wouldn't put too much in like every time you feed, but because a lot of the time, so this is just probably about, well, for this ratio, probably about a cup of calcium carbonate. And the thing is, you don't really need it unless your bin is going a little acidic. So if you're using things like, well, non-neutral bedding, so I use cardboard and I use coconut coir, that is actually quite neutral. You don't need to reduce the acidity. But if you're feeding with a lot of scraps, food scraps, then that breaks down into a lot of nitrogen, and that can very quickly increase the acidity of your bin. And if your bin is too acidic, then you're going to have some problems. Worms are a little bit like chickens. They need grit to be able to break down their food. So we're going to be adding in some volcanic rock dust. You can use ground up eggshells, that works well. But this is great from another purpose as well. It has a lot of micronutrients in there that's going to help your compost to be even better. So dual purpose, and it's not very expensive. I'm just going to open it up. And again, don't need a lot. I'm probably going to do about half a cup. So this is a 1 cup measure. So we'll do, I mean, this is a 1/4 cup measure, I should say. So we'll do 1/2 of a cup. Just give that a mix, actually. Just do it with my hands. Some other things you can add in here, ground up dried beans, that works quite nicely. Anything that's going to add a assortment of nutrients for the worms is going to help them produce much better castings. So this is a treat for the worms, and it really helps to accelerate your worms' growth. If you're doing breeder bins, things like that, then this stuff is helpful. But this shouldn't be your core feed for your worms. The whole point of vermicomposting is to use up your kitchen waste and that sort of thing instead of sending it to landfill. Now, I do have chickens, so one of the things we have quite a lot of, because we have to buy it all the time, is chicken feed. I'm going to grind up some chicken feed and add it in here. So if you look on Facebook Marketplace or eBay sometimes, you can pick these up for cheap or even nothing. This is an old one of mine that I outgrew and don't use anymore, but it just works perfectly for everything I need to do in here. Not only grinding up chicken feed, which is what I'm about to do, but also for grinding up your scraps to help accelerate the eating of those scraps. Be careful, don't use chicken feed if you've got Vermex or something in there, which is obviously there to kill worms, because yeah, it's not going to be great for your worms. This is just plain chicken feed. You know, the worms love it, and it adds a bunch of nutrients. It's good for the chicken, so of course it's going to be good for the worms as well. So I hasn't ground it into powder. To actually grind this down, I used a coffee grinder, but it's done a good enough job. You can see there, it's not too bad. Still some kibble in there, but honestly it's not going to be too much of an issue. Yeah, it didn't do a great job at all. And I can see why I don't use this in the house anymore. And something else I'm going to add in here is some ground up beetroot. Doesn't that look amazing? So this here is just some excess beetroot we had at the end of the season, and you dry that in a dehydrator, and there you go. We just had loads of it, and I thought, why not add some into here, give it a nice color. And also the theory is, and I've seen this from a few other guys online, that it also helps your red wigglers become even redder, get a nice good color on them. So this is just as much as I could get. Don't think the amount really matters too much, but it's amazing how it breaks down. That was a lot of beetroot. Actually smells quite nice. There we go, just mix that all in. Excuse my hands. Why not? They really are pink. I'm just giving them a good mix, get everything mixed in there. And we've got ourselves some worm chow that'll last for ages. So I don't have the largest amount of worms. I'm not doing the worm farming commercially. I do grow chilies commercially, and I use my vermicompost for my chilies, but yeah, I don't have a ton of worms. I'd love to have more, but the amount I have, this here will last for ages. I would say I probably have around, it's difficult to say, probably 10 kilograms of worms in total in all the bins I have. But this here will last ages and ages. That is really satisfying. Who needs therapy when you got this? Yeah, I think that's good. I did have a bucket put aside for this. My worm chow bucket. So this just used to have chicken manure pellets in there, which again, the worms are not going to complain if there's a little bit of that in there. Every time I make worm chow, it's not going to be the same. A lot of it depends on if I have stuff in the pantry that is expired or is expiring soon, then I'll take that and use it for my worm chow. Weetabix is one that I've used in the past. We ended up getting a load of it that was expired from the supermarket, and that was fantastic. Lots of bran and stuff, and the worms really liked it. There we go. If you don't have all those ingredients, it's not a problem at all. If you want to make worm chow with just oatmeal, go for it. There's no issue there whatsoever. There's other things you can add if you really want to go to town with this. There's something in America called azomite, and that's just got an A to Z of micronutrients in there. It's just a heck of a lot of different micronutrients that are going to really help with this. But in the UK, you can't really get hold of that unless you want to pay a fortune for shipping. So rock dust it is. Volcanic rock dust is somewhat similar. It's not as nutrient dense or nutrient rich, but it does the job. Got a lot of really great micronutrients in there. Great for the worms and also great for the ending compost. Other than that, whatever you've got available that is dry, make sure it is dry, because that makes this last a long time. Throw it in there, grind it up, mix it up, stick it in a bucket, and you're good to go. And don't use this as a daily feeder. Well, you can if you really want to, but the whole point of having worms, you want to get rid of your vegetable scraps, right? Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're not yet subscribed, make sure you do so you can see the next one. Thank you for watching.